Do people think this is funny?
Do people think this is a joke?
Does it become trending because it's cool?
Does seeing those things make your day?
Why are you even sharing those things?
It is the time to get educated.
Republic Act No. 9147, otherwise known as the Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection Act, is an act providing for the conservation and protection of wildlife resources and their habitats, appropriating funds, therefore, and for other purposes. The following are the objectives of RA 9147. First, to conserve and protect wildlife species and their habitats to promote ecological balance and enhance biological diversity. Second, to regulate the collection and trade of wildlife. Third, to pursue, with due regard to the national interest, the Philippine commitment to international conventions, protection of wildlife and their habitats. And lastly, to initiate or support scientific studies on the conservation of biological diversity.
Unless otherwise allowed in accordance with this act, it shall be unlawful for any person to willfully and knowingly exploit wildlife resources and their habitats. The following are the illegal acts under RA 9147 and their corresponding penalties. Number 1. Up to 6 years in jail and or a 500,000 peso penalty for injuries against wildlife. You are not allowed to lay any kind of injury on wildlife. This includes torturing them, whether it be mentally or physically. So that means, if you see a snake slithering around, you're not allowed to hurt it in any way.
The second penalty is up to 12 years in jail and or a 1 million peso penalty for killing wildlife. This is because you are not allowed to kill and destroy any wildlife species unless it has a disease that is incurable and can be passed down to other animals or people, and killing it is the only way to keep it from spreading. Or if you have to do mercy killing because the animal is in so much pain. But even if that is the case, cruel ways of killing are not allowed. You need to use humane and scientific ways of killing it. It does not give you an excuse to give it a cruel death.
Number 3. You are not allowed to hunt, trade, or transport any wildlife species. That means even hunting them for food is not allowed. The only animals that the law states are allowed to be eaten are cattle pigs, goats, sheep, poultry, rabbits, carabaos, horses, deer, and crocodiles. Anything other than that is not allowed.
Protection of critical habitats. A critical habitat is an area important for the conservation of endangered species. Not only is it illegal to destroy a critical habitat, but it's also illegal to destroy even the ones not labeled as critical but contains a population of threatened species. So that means you are not allowed to do things like dumping harmful waste, illegal logging, burning, and squatting, and you are not also allowed to extract minerals from it.
Number 5. You are not allowed to destroy nests, nest trees, host plants, etc. Host plants are plants that animals utilize, whether for shelter or for other reasons. Please be mindful that some of the trees you're destroying might be homes of many different species that we need to protect.
Now, we are done with the illegal actions under RA 9147 and the possible consequences if you reject those terms. And now, let's proceed and be educated with the following things that we need to do.
Follow the rules. Knowing what the law says is the first step, and observing it is the second. Now that you're aware of the rules that govern the animals in our country, you can easily tell what's right from wrong. And you yourself already know what you should be avoiding, and you'll be able to recognize if ever you come across someone who is committing a wildlife crime.
Do not buy from illegal wildlife trade. Illegal wildlife trade needs to be stopped as it's a terrible kind of business. Because if you think about it, if we want to put an end to illegal wildlife trade, then we have to stop creating demands for these products. Because if there's no demand, then poachers will stop supplying. And if you're keeping exotic animals as pets, the law states that you need to have them registered and regularly reported to the DENR. But for everyone's information, there are some special cases wherein they allow people to keep threatened animal species, but that's if and only if you're gonna be doing it for conservation breeding or research purposes. And they're gonna check if you have the facility and all the means to do that.
Number 3. Do not tolerate wildlife crimes. We see it online. We even hear stories about it from friends and relatives. Most of the time, people are even proud that they caught or killed a wild animal. But we need to put our foot down and say that this is not okay. When we were making this video and as I was doing some research on the net, I found this reaction video about an adult tigress that was beaten to death by villagers in some district in India. It got me teary-eyed and made a remark that education is really important because it makes you think, how many more? When you're about to kill them, they can scream and say, "No, I don't want to eat you. I don't want to hurt you." How many more harmless species are we gonna have to destroy by people who just didn't know? Being educated is the best weapon you have against them. Let them know that what they're doing is wrong. Let them know that there are consequences, not only on them, but on humanity in general, if people like them keep on doing this.
Number 4. Push for better legal enforcement. Let us encourage the government to do a better job in making sure that these laws are implemented. Nobody is above the law, not even officials or lawmakers. Everyone should be subject to it, because what's wrong is wrong. But better enforcement needs our cooperation. We need to create a community of people who will continue this conservation. We need to be vocal about this cause so that everyone and even leaders will start to pay attention because they realize that this is something that truly matters. So as we push for the government to do a better enforcement, let's all do our part in fighting this battle.
The reason why we're sharing this information with you is because you might not be aware that there is something you can do to protect wildlife. Sadly, not a lot of people are gonna respect wildlife. But if we can get those people to become aware that the harm they cause towards animals come with terrible legal consequences, then they might just think twice about not doing it ever again. Enough with the compromises.
Enough with the bribes.
Enough with all the palusot and excuses.
The fight against wildlife crime is everyone's fight.
This is our battle together. Every
Every
part
part
of
of wildlife
matters.
matters.